The United States hit Venezuela with a large-scale strike early Saturday and said its president, Nicolás Maduro, had been captured and flown out of the country.
It's a long walk to face the wrath of American justice for Nicolás Maduro and his wife Celia. Dressed in matching tan prison uniforms, they're led in handcuffs from a chopper.
There are scholars, realist scholars, who believe that world politics is about anarchy. If Russia will put its forces in Canada, US will feel in the same way.
We are not going to be able to allow in our hemisphere a country that becomes a crossroads for the activities of all of our adversaries around the world. We just can't allow it. We can't have a country where the people in charge of its military and in charge of its police department are openly cooperating with drug trafficking organizations.
But parallelly, there is another Article 51 which says states have the right to self-defense. Any leader who has tried to bypass this petro-dollar regime has been seen by US as the biggest threat for its national interest. And the Venezuelan president, he was trying to bypass this petro-dollar system. He was trying to sell oil in yuan. He was using digital currencies to sell its oil. And this is the real reason for US action against him. पहले देख लेना, पहला क्वेश्चन पूछेगा क्या? देख लिया ठीक है.
So Rahul sir, what is happening these days? I mean, if we look at the events of international and geopolitics relations, it is very difficult to believe that a thin line between the reality and imagination has blurred. So for instance, the initial images which appeared of ex-President Maduro from Venezuela, no one could have believed that a existing president could be taken hostage by another country from his presidential state. And sir, obviously by doing this, US is going against the very particular liberal world order that it itself established and propounded, and it was a force of US behind this international world order established after World War II. So don't you think, sir, America is being very hypocritical?
More than the way American behavior has amazed you, Weber.
Yes, sir.
I am amazed the way you have started this directly with the question without doing any personal comment, as we are doing the podcast after a long period of time. And suddenly you have jumped to the first question itself. That is also something new going on in this series of podcasts which we have done in the past.
Yes, sir.
So the question you have asked, see, I'll give you the answer in the terminology of the political science. Okay. Now, there are scholars, realist scholars, who believe that world politics is about anarchy. And we will never be able to curb anarchy. And this is what exactly we can see. World politics is about anarchy. And this anarchy is a state of turmoil. This was analyzed by Hobbes also in his assumption. And that assumption comes true. That world politics is all about anarchy. And world politics is all about power. So what US is doing is just the blatant display of power. We cannot deny that.
Correct.
Now you have used the word liberal world order. It sounds good. And for many years, politics of the world has been on the lines of which was established after the end of Second World War.
Right.
Now, if we use the word liberal world order, we have to use the word Westphalian world order, which was prevailing since the Treaty of Westphalia till the end of Second World War. And Westphalian world order was all about power. Okay, that states will aspire for power and they will keep aspiring for power. But this concept of aspiration of power itself proved problematic, which pushed the world towards power disequilibrium, which ended up into the war, and war becomes the final way to maintain power equilibrium. That's why the way forward was suggested, that we need to do something if we prevent the world to remain in the state of perpetual war, that we need something substantial to prevent anarchy. But what we can see is that ultimately history repeats itself, and this is the conviction and the belief of the realist, that no matter what, we will never be able to curb anarchy. Only way to do so is power politics, and right now world politics is going on the lines of the realist, that world affairs and world politics is all about holding power. And this step of US we need to see in the same light, that it is the aspiration of US to keep its power and the hegemony intact in the world, which has come under challenge from China. If you see the recent US actions, whether it is tariff wars, whether it is threatening Greenland for having threatening Denmark for acquiring the political control over Greenland.
And sir, there is a podcast where we have discussed
Greenland
last year.
Yes, last year. And now he is again more vocal that no matter what, it's a matter of our national security and interest. US action in Syria, US just few days before threatening Iran, and final military action in Venezuela. All we need to see in this particular light that world politics is nothing beyond the power politics, and realism is the dominant theory which will keep prevailing in world politics.
So just a little bit diversion, sir, which means that all along what Putin has been claiming and Russia has been saying has been true. That probably he belongs to the realist side, he believes in realism, and America claimed to believe in the liberal, but every time Americans have been the one to breach the rules, whether it is Iraq invasion, sir, or Afghanistan invasion. They have found some excuse or the other. What is the excuse this time, sir?
So it is the game of narratives. Like Pakistan after Operation Sindhu tried to create this narrative that they have defeated. So that is why one of my favorite philosopher, Gramsci, his concept ideological domination with the help of civil society, and US always with the help of world media has tried to create this narrative that US is on the side of justice, and US will make sure that justice is to be ensured. But this is US notion of justice, right? So US will keep finding justifications. It's the game of finding justifications, and US try to build narratives that US actions are to ensure justice, though this is the blatant lie. There's a very interesting thing to say that US blame Russia for authoritarianism and China for asserting authoritarianism. Now someone needs to ask US, I always say someone needs to hold the collars of the US president, that if you place NATO forces along the Russian borders, along the western borders of Russia, Russia is bound to feel threatened.
Correct.
Considering the geography. Just tell me one thing, if China sign a military treaty with Canada, and if China put its forces in Canada, don't you think US will feel the same?
49-9.
Yes. If Russia will put its forces in Canada, US will feel in the same way. So what Russia is doing in Russian thought process, it is a red line having NATO along our borders, and it is for our own protection, that is our integrity and sovereignty. Now you ask the reason. So US found the justification of its war in Iraq on the name of the weapons of mass destruction, and not a trace was found. Though it was the Western media who was able to build this narrative and able to convince the world.
Correct.
US blamed Taliban for
Al-Qaeda harboring.
For the umbrella protection of Al-Qaeda. But finally US was able to find him in Pakistan.
Correct.
Right. This time there is an Article 51 in UN Charter.
Okay.
Which says states have the right to self-defense. So,
but sir, Venezuela has not attacked US.
That's what. Now, if the UN as a system was created for the protection of integrity, sovereignty, and it is based on this basic assumption that sovereignty is sacrosanct, which is there in Article 2 of UN Charter. But parallelly, there is another Article 51 which says states have the right to self-defense. Now, US has put the blame on Venezuela for narco-terrorism, that the actions of the government of Venezuela is threatening the national interest of US. So US is justifying it on the name of self-defense and on the name of national interest, and use of force for self-defense is permitted within UN Charter. So this is the ground on which US has justified. So this is a lie.
Which aspect of American sovereignty was being threatened by Venezuelan president, sir?
Directly nothing, but this is what US is claiming, that narco-terrorism, that the government of Venezuela is involved in drug trafficking, and drug trafficking is impacting the life of the US civilians. And this is the ground they have made to justify their military
But then
action.
sir, you were talking about the underlying reason.
Yes. Now if you ask me the real reason, The real reason, which I hope many would understand, it is about the controlling the oil industry, about the oil sector of Venezuela, and Venezuela hold one of the highest reserves of oil.
Yes, sir.
Now, the thing is, it is all about petro-dollar industry. That US since 70s has able to establish a system that if anyone has to buy oil, which is the essential commodity for every country, you have to buy it in dollar. And if you have to sell oil, you have to sell it in dollar. Any leader who has tried to bypass this petro-dollar regime has been seen by US as the biggest threat for its national interest. And the Venezuelan president, he was trying to bypass this petro-dollar system. He was trying to sell oil in yuan. He was using digital currencies to sell its oil, and this is the real reason for US action against him, because
If people
anyone who
start
will challenge
bypassing-
the petrodollar thing, it is the biggest threat for US.
Right, because the link, so the American dollar stopped being a currency backed with gold.
Yes.
I think in 1970s.
Yes.
And after that, there is no asset, there is no real asset which backs.
Yes, this is what exactly Saddam was trying, and this is what exactly I hope you remember the Libyan president,
Libyan
that is
President
Gaddafi. He tried to create a own Pan-African currency, and this is exactly what Venezuelan president was trying.
Right, sir.
So any leader who has tried to challenge the petrodollar system created by US is seen by US as the biggest threat to its national security and interest.
But sir, can you just briefly throw some light on how this entire petrodollar thing works?
So, for economic growth, you need energy security,
Right, sir.
and still most of the countries are dependent on oil.
Yes, sir.
So, the US created this system that if any country has to import oil, you can only buy oil in dollar,
Yes, sir.
and those countries who are oil exporters, they can export oil only in dollar. So, those oil exporter countries who have
Like Saudi
acquired
Arabia.
a lot of dollar, they again invest back in the US bond itself.
So ultimately it comes back
to US itself. Okay, and other countries have to earn dollar to buy oil.
because there is no other currency in
Yes.
which oil is traded.
Yes. And other than that is why, so when BRICS countries try to push forward an alternate currency, US threatens tariff. US threatens tariff war. The biggest tariff war US threaten will be invited because there are new countries who have joined BRICS, and US threatened if anyone who will try to bypass the US currency system will
an
have
alternate
to
payment
face
system.
Tariffs. Okay.
And that can explain why India is facing one of the highest tariff charges.
Yes. Now, one thing is this: he was trying to bypass the petrodollar system created by US, that is challenging petrodollar economy of US. Second thing, he was inclining towards China, and China has invested very heavily in Venezuela in its oil industry. Also, China is building. Venezuela is one of the main country which has come in the scheme of the China under its One Belt One Road project. So China is increasing its presence within Venezuela, which is one of the major threat for US, and US can't see Latin American countries going on into the zone or the sphere of influence of China.
It is its own backyard.
Yes, its backyard, and I hope you know and others might be aware of the Monroe doctrine. Under Monroe doctrine, US clearly established this is our backyard and this is our region where we are going to keep our influence intact. And the present policies of US are being seen in the light of the revival of Monroe doctrine. A scholar has used the word Dunro doctrine on the name of Donald Trump. That what Trump is doing is the Dunro doctrine, and it is that time we didn't had a established liberal order, but this world order is established by US, and through this Dunro doctrine, US itself is blatantly challenging the world order which was established after the end of Second World War, and this will push the world toward chaos, violence, instability and anarchy, and this is what realists believe in.
Very rightly put, sir. How do you see India's response? What are the options that are available for India now that we have committed ourselves so strongly to multi-alignment? Going forward, how should India
Yes, so we can't remain mute spectator, okay, to all these events. I think I have not seen a very proactive response. Personally, I felt that we are going to take a proactive response, and I understand our own dependence because of our defense needs. We cannot make we cannot drift away from US, but still what I personally feel is that we should have come up with some response, because India is seen as a leader of global south. So there are expectations from India and India's leadership that we should criticize this blatant violation of UN Charter, the way US has violated the integrity and the sovereignty of a state. See, if the president is being blamed for the for, let's say, he has manipulated the electoral process, if he has shown authoritarian tendencies, if he has controlled media, there is suppression of the there is a suppression of the the opposition leader has been brutally suppressed. All these are the internal affairs of a state. And how come US has given this authority to himself to take a military action against a sovereign state? So this, as I said, so India
officially should have actually
India should have taken some stand, as India always tried to project itself as a leader of global south. And if India will not take any stand, it will going to put a big dent on our credibility, that how much we are interested to play this role of a leader of at least global south. So NAM countries, Afro-Asian countries and Latin American countries, they clearly look towards India to be more proactive, and India is one of the most vocal supporter of multilateralism.
at least morally.
Yes. So moral grounds, normative grounds, I think
Just
India,
like our policy on Israel-Palestine has been to morally side with Palestine, not to outrightly support Israeli intervention, but at the same time practically we align with Israel. Something like that could have been.
So we should have what we have said after this is that Indians going to Venezuela, they need to be. We have given the word of caution right now: do not travel to Venezuela. That, but what I can see is lack of proactiveness. Again, I am saying that US, we have not find the strength to criticize US as such. So if we will not do that, it will going to put a big dent on our credibility. And I guess probably in the coming few days, something from our side will definitely, India will come up with some stand, or let's say if someone will bring a resolution in UN criticizing US military action in Venezuela, I guess we should vote in favor of that resolution. Now, whether we will do that or not, I'm not very sure, but I think we are going to vote probably against US if any resolution will be brought in UN General Assembly by any of the countries.
So, are you going to reveal it today that you are a part of that consultative committee which will formalize India's response, or that is for a later podcast?
I wish I would have been, but it
okay,
is
so
not
you
so.
Don't want to come out today.
Exactly.
Okay. So podcast with you has always been very enlightening, and just so that our viewers also know, what is going to be the frequency of these podcasts from now on?
That depends on the frequency of such issues in the world affairs and the world politics.
Sir, I think these days when Trump is the American president, I don't think there is going to be a paucity of issues.
Then I guess, and second thing, how much you will going to push me for this particular thing?
No, sir. Now that we have at Anantam IAS the setup ready, it took us some time to develop this infrastructure.
First thing is that Trump keeps doing things like this, and such issues keep emerging,
Right, sir.
which is worth discussing. On the issues on which I can throw some light, which can be of some benefit to the viewers. Third thing is about the academic aspect, that how much it is helpful for the UPSC aspirants, because our main concern is about them. The fourth thing is how much you will going to push me, and rest assured, I'm always going to be available for such podcasts.
So in the entire discussion, it seemed like except you, everyone is a bottleneck.
Yes.
Except you, but in
Exactly.
reality, you are the real bottleneck. Trump is readily available and giving us issues. I am here available to record the podcast. It is the back-to-back classes. Your outside class commitments.
Your half of audience knows your reality well.
Okay, sir. So we and Rahul sir can continue this altercation beyond the recording, but stay tuned on Anantam IS channel for more insightful videos related to international affairs and PSIR. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Vaibhav.
Thank you, sir.